Lots of you have asked me to do this, so here we go. What I'm going to do in this video is run through the full interview with Erik Ten Hag by Henry Winter in the Times. Every single element of it covered. We're going to speak about his plans for next season, his plans on transfers, Marcus Rashford in the transformation, what's going on with Wan-Bissaka, the future of Maguire, the future of Gea, Mason Greenwood, his principles, loads and loads and loads of things. It really is an in-depth interview, so well done to Henry Winter for conducting it. And I want to run through it with you as a community because there are so many important talking points and gives us a little bit of an insight as to what's coming next season. Please stick around for the next 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes. It's going to be a big one, but I think it's one that you'll enjoy because you'll learn plenty. So drop a like on the video and let's get into this interview. It really is a fantastic interview, man, with Erik Ten Hag. Now, what's the first point I've got down here? Right. We are going to focus in the beginning on David De Gea and what Ten Hag said, not just about De Gea's future, but about goalkeepers in the modern game, which we all know. He said this. He goes, look, it's not what I want. It's more what top football demands nowadays. If you observe the biggest teams, you have to be capable of playing from the back. Use your keeper as a +1 in the back. Otherwise, it's very simple for opponents to put you under pressure. De Gea had to step up. In a number of games, he showed progression. De Gea will stay as at United next season, but Ten Hag said this, and this is an important aspect. I will not say he will always be my number one, because in a club like United, there must be competition in all positions. You can't do it with 11 players. It's impossible. You need double positions. You need good players, 2 good players for every single position. So Ten Hag there, the demands, look, if you look at City and Liverpool and the progression that they've had over the last, well, however many years, Ederson was key for City. Alisson was key. We're hearing that Diogo Costa might cost 75 million. It's about thereabouts for what Alisson cost. I don't actually know what Ederson cost. I think that was about in the region of 50 million. But De Gea, he's not guaranteed number one next season. But as Ten Hag said there, it's not just necessarily his demands on De Gea. It's the demands of modern football. Football has changed. Football has changed. The style of it, the best formation, what works now, what worked a few years ago, doesn't work now. What got you here will get you there. And De Gea's style, he needs to adapt and continue to adapt. I don't know whether he fully can or not, but that was Ten Hag's plan. Effectively saying, look, we need 2 goalkeepers next season. Right now for competition, we've only got 1. I think 1 comes in. I just don't know whether it's going to be a first team or not. Now, this next part, Erik Ten Hag speaks about Maguire and speaks about his relationship with him and also kind of his admiration for him a little bit. He said, look, he respects Maguire for his professionalism. Yes, but he has high competition there with Varane, who's fantastic. Nobody would be happy with this situation. He is not as well. Trains on the best levels with 100% effort. He handles that situation well. And he's in that manner. And in his captaincy, he's important for the squad. Let's say I'm happy here that he's here. And when he was needed, he did a job. But it's a decision, really, that he has to make. And I spoke about this in my live stream this morning. I think the decision for Maguire is very straightforward. Ten Hag there, he's made it clear. I'm okay with Maguire being in the squad, but he'll only ever be there. He won't ever be a starter for Manchester United. If he really wants to take his career further upwards, Maguire's got to leave. And I think Ten Hag's made that clear there. But in terms of other signings, we know full well we need a striker. Ten Hag here saying, look, what we need beside Marcus Rashford is 1 extra player with scoring abilities, whether it's coming out of our own squad or we have to sign one. I think we all know which one. Well, not everybody agrees on Harry Kane. I understand that. But whether it's Harry Kane, whether it's Victor Osimhen, I don't think anybody or Ten Hag, realistically, is genuinely thinking, we can look inside this squad for the solution. Now, I'm going to speak about Mason Greenwood because he does speak about Mason Greenwood. We need a striker. It is the number 1 priority this summer. Who that player is remains to be seen, but I don't think anybody's under any sort of illusion that we can solve this situation internally. Now, with Marcus Rashford, we're solving it internally. Look, hey, he scored 30 goals this year. Nobody would have expected it from where he was last season. And I found this part particularly interesting on Marcus Rashford in terms of the plan that Ten Hag executed as a manager to get the most out of Rashford. A little bit of insight into his coaching methods here. He goes, look, first of all, I made a culture where he could perform. Then I get him motivated. And then I construct a way of playing where he can do it. And then on top of that, it's fitness. Don't forget that part. When those 4 aspects are there, Marcus Rashford will score. So culture of the club, then his motivation, then the tactics themselves, and all of those combined with fitness can lead to Marcus Rashford scoring 30 goals, winning Player of the Season, winning Players Player of the Season, and Sir Matt Busby Player of the Season. What Ten Hag has done with Rashford has worked. Benny McCarthy, I think, has absolutely helped with that. But I found that part particularly interesting in terms of him explaining exactly how he went about helping Rashford refine himself. Not only refine himself, but create a better version of himself. And this is definitely the best Marcus Rashford that we have seen. But going back to what I was saying there about Harry Kane and about transfers, Ten Hag went into a bit more detail about... It's clear he was frustrated that Manchester United were unable to spend in January. He goes, look, when you see the investment in the Premier League in the summer, yeah, we spent, to be fair. But in the winter window, we didn't do anything. We had loan players, Weghorst, Sabitzer and Butland. But when you look around, all the other clubs invested to be in the top 4, and we didn't invest. You cannot ignore that. If you want to be competitive in this league, you have to invest. I need signings. Yes. He's looking up there to the owners, whoever they may be, and the indecision that's currently going around. We do need signings. He needs signings, and he's right to call it out. And it's not just a case of being ungrateful and saying, oh, you did say... Liverpool got Cody Gakpo. Chelsea signed the world. Spurs got Porro, I think. I don't know who else they got. Newcastle. Did they get anybody in January? I think they might have got Anthony Gordon. Don't know whether that was January or not. And Arsenal, they got Trossard, and who else did they get? Somebody else. They all invested. Man United still managed to get into the top 4. It's a testament to the coaching and a testament to the strength of that squad that did exist. But Ten Hag wants more. Made that abundantly clear. I've been saying that word so much there. Don't worry, abundantly has come into Anyway, Ten Hag wants signings. Now, building on what Ten Hag said there about Marcus Rashford, I want to go through something he said here on Wan-Bissaka, which caught my eye as well. Because I thought this was an interesting point. Because obviously Wan-Bissaka, first half of the season, very forgetful. Second half of the season, fantastic. And he said, look, we made an effort in going into his character. And we got a relationship. From there, he got his motivation. He got his chance. He performed. And from there on, he got his belief. And we go back to what you said here about Marcus Rashford, right? He needs to make the culture where he can perform. Get him motivated. Find the way where he can play and get that fitness. And the same thing pretty much applies here to Wan-Bissaka. Got the character, figured out exactly who Wan-Bissaka was and how he can help it, because it's going to be different. What worked with Rashford wouldn't necessarily work with Wan-Bissaka. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Everybody's got different characteristics, different personality, but whatever Ten Hag has done with Wan-Bissaka has worked. And another very good example of excellent coaching from our manager. Now, let's speak about a very important subject, I would say, and that's Mason Greenwood. Henry Winter asked him about Mason Greenwood's future, and he said this: Ten Hag simply says that the forward has showed in the past he is capable of doing that, scoring up front, but emphasises it is not his decision as to whether he returns or not. Now, I'm normally open for debate, hearing both sides of things. And I've heard enough of both sides of this Mason Greenwood situation. My mind is made up. I do not want him to play for Manchester United again. You can come at me and say, oh, Sam, he's not been found legal by the system, blah, blah, blah. I know what I heard. I also know the percentages of rape cases that lead to convictions and charges in that. And I'm not going to get into a whole debate about that because hell no, I've done that before. I don't want him to play for Manchester United again. And Ten Hag says that he doesn't have that's not his decision. I would disagree on that. If Ten Hag does not want him to play for Manchester United again, then Manchester United will move him on. They will not undermine him as a manager and make him keep a player that he doesn't want. But let's continue to see how this one develops. Simon Stone from the BBC saying that after the FA Cup final, Man United will have more time to focus on it. So let's see what happens or changes there. Now, as well as all of that, we've spoken about Maguire, De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Greenwood there, lots and transfers. There's so much more in this interview. Make sure you drop a like on it. Let's get into the rest of it now. Ten Hag speaks about that game against Brentford and sort of the feeling that he had. He goes, look, I'm responsible, man. I hate managers who, when they're winning, they're telling him, oh yeah, it was us, I won the game. But when they're losing, they're pointing the fingers at the players. We win together, we lose together. You have that pride. You can act like we did in Brentford. I can accept you lose a game, especially in the start of a new era. Players have to get used to the way of play. The new manager, defeat can come, but not in this way. You saw players who just gave in. We are paid to deliver a performance, and you can't deliver this. We get paid very good, and then you expect even more. It was totally unacceptable how we played and how we presented ourselves. And of course, we know what happened after that. The famous, well, no, infamous, you can call it that instead. That run that happened the day after. No day off. Everybody ran, as I think it was 10.8 kilometres, something like that. Ten Hag also joined in. What happened? The next game against Liverpool at Old Trafford, we won. And things turned around. It was used as a marker, a line in the sand. And Ten Hag's been pretty consistent with that messaging the whole way through about collective responsibility. Because previously, Mourinho was the king of it, throwing players under the bus and saying, it wasn't me. Remember when Luke Shaw had a great performance and he goes, well, it was the body of Luke Shaw, but it was the mind of me. That was a really weird thing that Mourinho said at that point. And someone, of course, that Ten Hag has lent on throughout his time so far at Manchester United is Sir Alex. I don't see it as a bad thing. Why would you not take advice from the greatest manager of all time? Doesn't mean you're going to go knocking on his door 24/7, but if you need to speak to him, you can. And that's what Ten Hag has been doing. He goes, we're aware of it in terms of the problem with the culture at Manchester United. I informed myself. After Fergie left, the culture changed. And one of the biggest qualities Fergie had was those standards. And I wanted to bring those back. I talk to Sir Alex regularly. He gives his opinion. And I'm happy to have that opinion. With all his experience and his intelligence, it's really valuable to talk with him. From Sir Alex, I learn a lot because he's such a legend and it gives me inspiration on how to manage. And why would you not take inspiration from the greatest manager of all time? That picture there is one of my favourite photos of the season. Fergie and Ten Hag after the League Cup final. I hope we get a repeat of that photo with the FA Cup final, with the FA Cup trophy in between them. That would be magical. And this part here I thought was quite interesting as well in terms of the impact that a defeat can have in comparison to the impact that a victory could have. And he was saying this. He shares Fergie's mindset that defeats sting more and last longer. He goes, definitely, if you want to be that winner, you have to feel a loss a long time in your stomach. You can't lose. And if you do lose, you have to question everything. In general, especially after night games, I sleep badly. The game has to settle down and I'm already thinking about the next day, the next game. How do you prepare? What to feed back to the group and what not? I have to set the right tone. And as a manager, you know, as a player, you can lose, you can be pissed off, and you look at yourself. But as a manager, you've got to look at absolutely everything that happened. Collectively bring it all together and make sure that you don't ostracize an individual and say it was your fault when ultimately there might have been collective. And that's the concept of collective responsibility. Management is not easy. And Ten Hag here focuses and speaks about that control. It's a buzzword for me with Ten Hag. Control is what he always wants. And I've really enjoyed this little bit here. I think that I'm always in control. One of my communication managers once told me, everyone in the stadium can be in the red zone, but never the manager. But he does try. He said, yeah, I try. I know as a manager nowadays, especially with VAR, you don't have much influence on decisions. So you focus on the game and focus on your players. But look at that bit there. He then admits, and when it looks like my emotions go up, I do it on purpose to take influence over what's on the pitch. And that, for me, is why that photo always stood out to me. One of my favourite photos this season. Ten Hag celebrating after we beat City. He tries to maintain his emotions, not in a sort of not in a negative way, but that's his style of management. So when it seeps out, when it comes out, when he's celebrating, when he's doing that, when he's angry on the sideline, you know that it's genuine. And as he said there, he feels like he's always in control of emotions. And when they go up, he does it on purpose. That's classic Fergie. That really is classic Fergie. Fergie knew exactly what he was doing when he whipped out the watch, when he did everything just to get the game of inches, right? Go and watch that Al Pacino speech if you haven't seen it. Very famous speech. Go and watch it. Well, not Al Pacino speech, but from, what's it called? What was it? Can't remember what film. Hold on. No, damn it. It's an American football film anyway. Anyway, getting distracted. Going back here for the plans towards next season, Ten Hag's been very consistent with this the whole way through as well. He wants that team who are proactive, dynamic, determined. I've seen it many times at United. With that attitude, that's what I like. It's not that we are satisfied. There is still a long way to go, but we are definitely showing this mentality. And as I said, he's been extremely consistent with that the whole way through. He wants that active, proactive, dynamic team, winning the ball in the opponent's third, pressure. We're nowhere near that yet. Not in the levels that Ten Hag really wanted to across the course of a season. The Spurs game will always stand out for me as the blueprint at Old Trafford. That's the game I think we can look back on replay and go, that's what Ten Hag wants from this team every single week, no matter who the opposition. We're not there yet. And of course, we've got one game left here. And this was a fantastic little note to finish the interview and a fantastic way to finish this interview as well. Ten Hag here speaking in a bit of depth about how important the FA Cup is to him, because it's something that he watched as a kid the whole way through. I remember seeing United against Brighton in '83. Arnold Muren, the Dutch winger, played. I've seen many FA Cup finals. And of course, we're all looking at this thinking this is our opportunity to stop City winning the treble. Ten Hag takes a different approach, which I like. I know, it'll mean a lot to stop City winning the treble, but it's not about stopping City. It's about us winning the FA Cup. We want to build our own legacy and era. It really is a fantastic note to end it on, and just, I suppose, a different way of how Ten Hag is looking at it. Remember the quote at the start of the season? Era's come to an end. And you've seen the point swing. I think we had like a 40-odd point swing on Liverpool this season. Man United finishing third. We won the League Cup, and we could stop City winning a treble and putting a dent in that era. And beginning our era under Ten Hag with a cup double and a top 4 finish in his first season. That will be a fantastic start. And I like the idea that Ten Hag is looking at it differently. To us fans, we're terrified by the idea of City winning a treble, but he's not. He's excited about the idea of Man United winning a double in his first season. I just like that switch. And I really enjoyed that interview. Well done to Henry Winter for it. A really wide-ranging interview. I hope I've covered it all. I have covered it all. I hope you've enjoyed it in this video. As I said, it was a very, very long interview. So big up to Henry Winter. The link to the full interview is in the comments if you want to subscribe to the Times. I'd encourage you to do so. Some great journalism on there. But big up to this man being our manager. I can't wait to see what happens on Saturday. I think we'll give everything. I don't know whether it's going to be enough to beat City, but if we do, it won't be about City, stopping City winning the treble, will it? It'll be about Ten Hag securing a double in his first season and the era really getting started. You can let me know what you think in the comments below. What, man?